Welcome back to the Get Loud podcast. We got two special, beautiful guests.
Very special
We got
guests.
Chantal and Nelly.
In the house. Welcome, y'all. How we doing today? All right. They are estate planning and probate trust lawyers. We'll get all into all that. We're talking to the regular people, right? Not the lawyers right now. And Nelly is a super lawyer as well. All right. That's amazing. Thanks so much for coming on the show, guys.
Thank
We
you
appreciate
for having
you.
us.
Absolutely.
And for like the best welcome we've ever done.
I got to make you feel welcome.
Yeah.
We're happy you're here. That's awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourselves. Like, give us a little background, where you're from originally, and how you guys came together. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
If you mind just scooting up on the
I
mic
will
right
start because mine's not as exciting as hers. I'm born and raised San Diego. Or
Nice.
I'm born LA, but pretty much raised San Diego. I've been here my entire life, haven't left. I should have. I probably should have branched out a little, but I didn't. It's hard to leave San Diego.
It is.
And it's hard to leave family. Went to law school in Thomas Jefferson, where I was fortunate enough to meet Nelly. We became best friends, and she's like a sister, not just a friend.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's a lot more steps involved, but once we passed the bar, we decided to open an estate planning firm together. And here we are 10 years later.
That's awesome.
In front of you guys.
And now let's hear your version, because
She has a cool backstory of her life.
Yeah, so I was born in Iran but raised in Sweden.
Okay.
And then I moved here to go to school. So I came here for undergrad. And and then I moved around in the US a little bit and then finally came to law school here in San Diego. And like her, I was like, I'm never gonna leave this place. This is awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's great.
that's where we met. And I told her, I said, usually you wait a little before you open up your own firm. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
We could do this. Why not? And
Absolutely.
she was working for another firm at the time. Thank you.
You're good.
And so I told her, I'll set it up, and you slowly exit and come
Okay.
join this firm. And she did. At first I think we were a little nervous. Can we do this? Can we not? But it all
Yeah.
worked out great. And people told us not to do it because we're best friends.
Interesting.
And
Okay, and so far, the dynamic?
It's great.
Great.
You
No
know-
one else I want to be in business with.
No.
Yeah.
Great.
I think someone asked me the other day, and they ask us all the time actually.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're so much alike, which is great, but we're different in the areas you need for business.
Right.
So in terms of like why we're best friends, morally, traditionally, there's so much similarity, but with business, there's just the right amount of differences
It's
to
more
make
complementary.
Yeah,
We
it's
balance each other out.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're the same way,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Really? That's awesome.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's like brothers talking to sisters right now.
Awesome. Do you know Omid Rajali?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Omid, we work with Omid.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me too.
Yes,
yeah,
very
yeah.
well.
Yeah, Omid's awesome because he
He is.
grew up in Iran as well.
Yeah, he did.
Until he was
He did.
about like 17 or 14, one of the, I think 14.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
a baby
think.
when I
Yeah.
left, but he was like
he was older.
when
Yeah,
he
he
left.
went. He
Wow.
went like almost through all the way through high school.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He said it's like a huge cultural difference coming
Yeah.
from there to over here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what's funny? I was telling her the other day, being raised in Sweden, there's a lot of Persians there as well.
Huh.
Huge population.
Yeah.
But then it was a culture crash for me coming here and seeing the Persians in the U.S. Very different.
Really?
But-
Really?
Yeah.
How
yeah.
so?
How?
I will say the Persians, okay, we're a little bit more humble and down to earth.
Okay.
Okay.
In Europe, I would
Gotcha.
say. Yeah, sorry.
We understand.
You understand. Yeah.
That's why her best friend's Italian, not Persian.
She's more reserved.
Yeah.
It's a balance. You
Yeah,
know?
there you go.
There you
I think
go.
it's within us Persians, we like the fancier things, right? There's a few things. We're always late. I was late today.
Were you
know.
late? Oh,
Oh,
that's
yeah. So it's all these different things. But over there, I think because everything, especially in Sweden, everything's very neutral, same level. So you don't really, everybody has to kind of be the same.
Yeah.
Versus
Right.
here is not the same.
And it's cool that you have a unique perspective as well because you're the all three of us sounds like we're born and raised in San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you had the opportunity to experience another country
Right.
and living somewhere else, and then coming
Right.
over here and realizing how awesome San Diego is.
Yeah, it really is.
And you still came to the same conclusion.
I
San
can't,
Diego's
no,
amazing.
I'm not leaving. Yeah.
So how old? Can you tell us kind of about the timeline? How old were you when you moved from Sweden to back and forth to
Oh
here?
yeah. So when we left Iran, I was about 2.
Okay.
So baby, and then when I left Sweden, I was about 25.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So
what's
so
the
most
what's the
of your
biggest
life.
difference from Sweden and
Well, I think the biggest thing is just how our society over there, like I said, everything is everybody's on the same level. You're not supposed to be too loud. Everything,
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of like everything has to kind of be fair.
Right.
Hence the higher taxes, right?
Yeah.
Versus here, it's just, more of like every man, just whatever you
Everyone
could
for
do,
themselves.
every man for themselves. Yeah, exactly. It's the country of milk and honey, right?
Yeah.
So if you
I call it the land of plenty.
yeah, exactly. So, if you put in the effort here, you'll
Yeah.
really see the results,
Yeah.
And
right?
what prompted the move? Or I guess I should ask first of all, were you already involved in law or interested in it when you moved?
So
Yeah.
my mom, she makes fun of me. When I was a little kid, I'd sit in front of the mirror and be like, I'm a lawyer in California. So I
manifested it. That's what I'm talking
I really did. That's what I tried to tell her.
Literally.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so then I came here for law school and then just stayed. So yeah.
So did you guys, like, when you guys met each other, was it like an instant click, or was it like a slow build?
It was a little bit slow build.
You're like, now we
because-
fought first.
No, this one, she was like to just be in school and then go home. Come to school, then go back home. And I was
Right.
like, hey, do you want to stick around a little bit? And she lives in Vista, and it's a long drive. And I was like, she loves spicy food. And I'd be like, hey, you want to go eat spicy food together? Like trying to lure her to stay, show her a world outside of Vista.
Right.
And then she started, and so it was a little bit of a slow build. What do
It
you
was.
think?
It was
Yeah.
a slow build. I think I was just so used to my routine,
Mm-hmm.
and it took a little bit for me. But then I think, again, when you meet someone, you're like, oh my God, I love you.
Yeah.
And then, you like realize this world around you that she introduced me to. You're like,
A
oh,
whole
okay.
new
A whole new world. I'm born and raised in San Diego, but I'm like, it was so like school, home, school,
Right.
home. So,
And this girl drove like an hour every day. That's a lot, and then
That's
you did
a
it for
lot.
work
It
too.
is.
She hardworking.
Wow.
I was doing it like my commute to work and then to law school, and in my head it was like, let me get home at 11 o'clock at night, make a cappuccino, and read my cases.
And work. Oh my God.
And start over, And then
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, I don't need to read that case in detail. I'll drink my cappuccino, but I want to go out tonight. So we really did. We became inseparable.
Yeah, but you wouldn't go. You would go home, drink your cappuccino, decide not to work, and then drive back from Vista out.
Well, oh, no.
She falls asleep after.
Yeah, I was
No,
about to
she's
say.
Italian.
Yeah.
No, that has no effect on her.
I didn't do that. I'd have my cappuccino like weirdly put me to sleep,
Uh-huh.
and then I'd start my day over. But then my days became like,
Longer and longer.
I don't need to go back to Vista right away
Yeah.
and be back home. I could go out a couple of times, and we formed this like great group of friends where,
Yes.
I was telling my little brother yesterday, he started law school, and I'm like, please have fun. Just
Yeah.
do everything possible to have fun in these 3 years. And I was like, you have no idea. Like, we had our Mardi Gras friendship group where we would go do things. We had St. Patty's Day planned. We had,
Yeah.
every event downtown, our little group of friends had so much fun.
Yeah.
We did.
So much fun.
One of the things we learned from Omid, actually, he was saying that like your success after law school is dependent on how well you network during law school, because of the network that you're gonna bring with you afterwards. So especially when you're making the decision of starting your own firm, and you're looking to get referrals and
Right.
have people that can help you out, it's like the better you did networking within, the more of like an army and a team that you're gonna have outside of it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
True.
a good.
And
That's
that's
very true.
And that's actually a question we posed because we made a video with Omid where he was giving advice. Do you start a law firm or do you work for a law firm?
Right.
And obviously you guys chose, we're going to start a law firm. What do you think people should do when they get out of school?
I did both. And, at the end of the day, you have to decide your personality and what your ultimate goals in life are. So for us, like our ultimate life goals, aside from working, is to have a family and to be present for our family. So with children, whenever, those times would come. So for us, we decided, hey, this is the best route because one, the flexibility, the leniency, and having that freedom, right? And not just freedom when we raise a family, but like also freedom to travel and
have
not
fun.
be, and to have a good time, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I don't think either of us, she worked for a firm for a while, criminal law firm. I worked for an insurance defense firm. And for me, even if the attorneys were wonderful, which they were, it just, the billable hours and being told I am not someone that can be like told you have to sit here for this many hours, build this much work. Like that doesn't suit my personality.
Yeah. I had to imagine that, because we talk to a lot of attorneys, and almost all of them that we speak to have started their own firms, but they all kind of talk about the same thing, that moment when you just made the decision to start your own firm. I had to imagine it's scary. Like what gave you guys the confidence to actually take that step, that leap?
I think we were kind of lucky that we had good mentors too.
We had great mentors.
Great mentors.
You want to shout them out?
Yeah, who are they?
Oh, Jonathan Mintz, I would say.
Jonathan
was great.
Mintz,
Yeah,
Pablo Palomino.
Yeah.
And then again, our network of students.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's scary, but we came from a place where we were like, we're not married, we don't have kids.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You can fail 10 million times
Right.
and just go back to a law firm if you want to. So,
That's true.
I think
Interesting.
It was
That's great.
almost, I think the scariest part is just like you decide and then you're like, okay, whose trust are we going to do first?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who's going to trust us?
Who's to
do
trust us
their
with the trust?
Yeah.
And wasn't it your teacher?
Yes, it was one of my middle school teachers that wanted it, and that was like a plus of being born and raised here. You're like, oh, you're an attorney.
You have a network.
Yeah.
So that was your first lead right there.
Yes.
That was your first client.
Yeah.
So what was like the client getting? How did you get your clients and get your leads in the very
We
beginning?
did a lot of networking.
Okay.
A lot. Like Omid said, we were just out any event. We were out there. We're doing a lot of these interviews, and then just her being born and raised here, she had she knew a lot of people, a lot of Italians. So that was great too. And I was part of the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce.
Nice.
I was on their board of directors. So then I found out that there's a population of Swedes here. And once they found out there's a Swedish lawyer,
Boom,
they wanted
you're
to
hired.
work with me. Yeah. It didn't matter if I was good or not. The fact that I was Swedish, they wanted to work with me. So that was great too. Yeah.
You had mentioned that you're originally with that law firm, you were doing insurance defense,
Yes.
which we always find so interesting
Yeah,
because
me
we're always
too.
talking to the PI attorneys.
Well, can I tell you, the PI world is actually more interesting.
Yeah.
Mine was based on construction defect.
Okay.
And again, I loved the attorneys, but I'm like, this is going to be my life, like rusted pipes, mold in the floors. Like, I don't think that this would bring me much happiness. So the insurance defense side's interesting though. It was great because again, I got a lot of experience. I did a lot of litigation prep, which was really great because it made me realize I don't want to do litigation. But it just, the insurance side is interesting, especially when you're defending insurance companies. There's a whole process of how you go about it, how you bill, and I'm not one that I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life type of situation.
Did you ever feel like you were on the wrong side?
Maybe because it wasn't PI.
It was a little different.
There was one case that was not so much construction, but it was down here. We worked with the insurance company for MTS, like the buses and everything, and it was really heartbreaking. This older man, he was transient. He was crossing where he shouldn't have been crossing the railroad tracks, and freak accident, right? The way his toe hit the track, he fell forward, and the way his head hit the curb in front of him was the perfect hit. It made him a vegetable.
Wow.
So there's things like that where you're like, okay, you're on the defense for MTS, but I kind of understand, you're just trying to prove your case on why you're not as liable or why this was a freak accident. So I think probably PI gets a little messier than construction defect, to be honest with you, or medical malpractice. But my area was pretty dry, so it wasn't anything crazy.
No doubt.
I can't imagine just dreading coming into work just because it's like so unfulfilling.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, great, I make so much money, but I hate going to work.
I just, again, if it wasn't for the attorneys, I was with them like throughout law school and even in college. So they were like family to me.
Right.
But I remember one of the attorneys, he called me in his office when I passed the bar and switched over to associate, and he's like, listen. I'm like, yeah. He's like, this probably doesn't suit your personality. And I was like, I know. And he's like, don't be like me and 25 years down the road decide I shouldn't have stuck with this. I was like, okay. And that's when her and I were talking, and I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm
Nelly's
ready.
like, you need to come over here. This is way more fun.
Yeah, no, she's the one who talked me into estate planning
nice.
because, you know, it's a nicer area of law because you're helping people. And there's a lot of like nice relationships you build with your clients, and there's a lot of hand holding, right? So it's, you know, a lot of times like attorneys or our clients afterwards are very happy. They're very grateful. And I think that was important to the both of us because we want to help, right?
Yeah.
So, and that fits her personality really well because she's always, you know, very kind and wants to do things for others.
Yeah.
And how'd you settle into estate planning?
How do you?
How'd you guys settle into estate planning? You're like, I'm gonna settle into estate planning. This is our niche.
I forced her, I think.
Yeah.
It was an elective course at Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And I am like a pretty like sensitive person. She is too. She is too.
She's more.
My major was like psychology, and then I went into law school, and I was like, contracts, ew. This, no. Criminal, never. Family law, no way. And it was an elective course. We both took it, right? And I was like, oh, this is kind of, because I had an interest in it, probably from the movies, where they're like, oh, so-and-so died, and they left a will, and you get everything or nothing.
Everyone's in the room fighting and stuff like that.
Yes. So that kind of sparked my interest. And after the elective course, I was like, oh, I like this. So, you know, when we'd be having spicy food in downtown, I would always tell her, hey, I want to open an estate planning firm one day. We should open an estate planning firm one day. And I'd say it, and then we passed the bar, and she's like, do you want to do it? I was like, yeah. Really, that's how it came about. Aside from all the work like she put in to form it and get us started while I was transitioning out, we really just were like, let's do it. We could do this.
I think for me too, my dad passed away when I was 6, and we lived in Sweden at the time. And it's so different there. When somebody passes away, all you got to kind of think about is you just mourn. That's it. And the government actually gave us money. You know, they gave my mom money. They gave me and my sister money, you know, because we just lost our father figure. You know, we needed help. So, you know, it's just a very different setup versus here, if you don't have anything in order, you're kind of punished a little bit, right? So you have to go through the court system. You know, it's a very costly, you know, timely. It's just a headache. So it kind of doesn't leave room for people to mourn. We have people calling us immediately when somebody's passed away, you know, like a day or two. And we're like, well, take some time. Like, well, we're getting all these people are freaking us out. We have to do this. We have to do that. And it's like 30 days to do this, 45 days to do that. And it's, you know, so they're getting nervous. So that was another thing where I'm like, wow, this is so different. Maybe if we could help and educate people, they could kind of avoid that process.
So what is the process in Sweden? Like if somebody passes, how does it work with the estate or the property or whatever assets?
You know, it's not that strict. In most countries, a will is sufficient. And if you don't have a will in place, they just assume, well, it's just going to go to, you know, we'll just transfer it to the wife and then the kids, right? So that's really what it was. It was like, okay, so here's the property just transfers over. Here's money for funeral expenses. Right? So there wasn't much about anything. It was just very simple to kind of wrap it up, right? Versus,
over here, it's like probate punishment.
It really is. And I remember in law school, and it's not just when it comes to estate planning, but just in general, like don't sleep on your rights, because if you do, you're going to get punished later on, right? So that was the thing where, you know, people think because of movies, they have a will and that's enough. And it's most of the time it's not. For most people, the threshold is really low here, right? So, and when they don't plan and they have to go through the probate court and you know, and she handles that, they just see how much of a headache it is, how much people fight, and you know, they could have just avoided all of that by creating a trust, which we do.
So what are some steps people can take right now before this happens to set themselves up to not have to call you after the passing of their father or mother or whatever?
Right. So, you know, we say anybody around the 185,000 mark, you know, of assets, which most people here have. Everybody.
One condo.
That's like their bathroom.
You own a trailer home.
A trailer home,
Trailer homes,
Far exceeded already. You know?
And if, you know, you don't have proper beneficiary designations or you don't have a trust in place, or just a will, then it's going to go through the probate proceedings. So what do? You create a trust and you title those assets to the name of your trust, right? Or you make sure you have proper beneficiary designations. And that's how you avoid the court kind of getting involved.
Right. Have you guys ever created a trust or a structure for somebody that was just like so overly complicated and they had all these businesses and
All the
different things, and like, can you tell us some crazy stuff?
I think, one of the things we see the most is people really try to control beyond the grave, like really try to control, especially when kids are involved. And, to a certain extent, the beauty in a trust is having the leniency to put because when you have a trust, it's private, it's your wishes, right? That's wonderful. You don't leave it to the court. And I'm sure if I had children, I would put certain things in there as well. But then we have some people who will take it a little farther and they'll be like, they get, part of their inheritance when they reach 55, another part at 65, and I'm like, ooh,
that's a long time.
Tough. Wait. That's tough. And then we have some people who are like, their children are 13 and they're like, if we die, give them everything at 18. And I'm like, okay, are you sure you want to do that? And they're like, yes, my child is responsible. And I'm like, they're 13. Like, you don't, trust me. And so, you navigate through that. But yeah, we have clients who own multiple entities that hold investment properties. We have clients who are in the medical professional, so you navigate how to do that with their medical practice. We have a lot of international clients. So Nelly speaks to a lot of like the Swedish and Farsi speaking clients and just kind of like bits and pieces of different investments. It's a popular thing now that if you live here and you own a home, a lot of people have investment properties in another state. So Nevada, Wyoming, Florida, and we are in San Diego and there's so many entrepreneurs. So we're seeing a lot of younger individuals with assets, wanting to protect that in a sense and also plan for, God forbid, their death.
Yeah. Right. And it's also 'cause, like, creating a trust for your assets is also another great way to create generational wealth.
1,000%.
Right? Like, isn't that what like the Rothschilds did? They have this trust and they also have this like whole life insurance or some type of life insurance, to where it's like the family's becomes the family's bank, So when they borrow money, they don't borrow from a bank; they borrow from the trust, and then they pay back the trust.
Yeah.
And even the interest they pay it back to the trust, right?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of different, things that people do with having, their estate plan in order. But I think the biggest misconception is people think you have to be really rich to have a trust. And that's just not the case. I mean, like we just talked about, just having a trailer home, you've hit that limit, right? So
it does have like kind of this like prestigious like kind of vibe about it.
Yes.
So how much does it cost to start a trust? A basic?
Well, for us, if you're single, a single estate plan is $2,200. If you're married, it's $3,200.
Okay.
Which is a drop in the bucket in comparison to if you go to if you end up going to probate court, he or she handles that. Those are set by the courts.
Yeah. And that's like tens of thousands of dollars, if not more.
More.
Way
Depends. Yeah.
It really depends on like the value of the estate. They're great for attorneys. Honestly, they're great. It's unfortunate, though, for the individuals going through it. And it's also unfortunate because a lot of times I've dealt with clients who end up with things that maybe they shouldn't have, just because you have to go by the letter of the law at that point because someone didn't put their wishes in writing. And, the court doesn't have time to listen to the emotional stories. Although I will tell you, sometimes on hearings, some of the judges will allow people to just vent, which is really nice of them, but the end result's always the same. Depending on the estate value, we get a statutory percentage. It's like a sliding scale, and then what people don't realize is they'll be like, well, the house is $1 million, but we owe $900,000 on the house. And it's like, too bad, too sad. When the courts factor that in, it doesn't matter the debt that's owed on it. And then we get a percentage as the attorney, a statutory fee, and then whoever is the administrator of the estate, like it could be a loved one, a cousin, a sibling, a child, they get the matching statutory fee. So let's say we make 20 grand on a probate, the administrator's getting 20 grand too, before anybody gets paid.
And all that's coming from the client.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like some like severe backstabbing from families?
Oh, always.
Like it was such a jolly family. As soon as they're
That money was
parent
there.
passed away, you know, they're like stabbing, I deserve this, I deserve that.
The best line ever when you hear it again in the movies and then you practice, and we hear so many times, this will never happen to our family, ever. It's never going to happen. We're the closest family. We love each other.
That's usually more like red
Oh,
flag.
right.
Yeah, those are the ones that actually.
1000%. When it's said, it's like, okay, here we go, because we've seen it,
Yeah.
and some of the quote unquote closest families, it's crazy. They'll fight over dollars. I had this one client, and I always talk about this because I'm like, ooh, that hurt. She was like wonderful, and she wanted to set up her estate plan, and she said, hey, she was a medical professional, and she said, she had 2 little boys. I want to make sure I do this so my husband, my kids were all taken care of. I don't want them to ever go through what I went through with my mom and siblings. And I'm like, okay, you let people talk. And so she continued, I want to make sure if something happens to my husband and I, that my mother and my brother never can see my children. I actually fear for their life. I was like, oh, okay. So you become like a psychologist in a way. You
Tell
let
me
them
more.
vent, tell me more. And then she told me more. And she was like, well, I was disinherited from my mother's estate. Okay, that sucks, right? But we see this a lot. We have clients who want to disinherit people. I was like, oh, I'm really sorry it happens. Don't be hard on yourself. You've done great. Everything's going to be okay. And she goes, yeah, well, the estate was $32 million. And I'm like, ooh.
Stings a little bit.
Yeah, stings a tad bit. Like, at that point, I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm really sorry. So I don't know. You see a lot of things when you're dealing with money and death. We always say it's like the nicer side of the law because it really is. People are so appreciative and they get so emotional, and it's really rewarding. But then at the same time, when you're dealing with death and money, you see a not so nice side
Death and
of
money.
people.
I have a question for you. So like, because you hear about this a lot nowadays. So a lot of people are getting married, remarried.
I don't know if I should laugh or cry.
And so let's say you have this estate, right? You have this plan, this trust and everything. It's yours. Let's say you get married and then you get divorced. Do you have to split that, or is that separate? Like you can never take that from that person?
Well, it's all based off of how those assets went in. So let's say they were community property and you created a marital trust. You're going to go through your divorce. There's going to be a marital settlement agreement, okay? That marital settlement agreement's going to dictate who gets what. From, wife keeps the house, husband keeps the business, whatever the decision is. At that point, it kind of dissolves the trust, because if those assets were part of a joint trust you created and the marital settlement agreement is saying, well, you get this and you get that, a retitling of assets occur, and all that happens is the trust becomes void. So the house is taken out of trust and given to the wife, the business same, and then it's like an empty entity.
Well, let me ask you this way. Let's say I have a trust, right? And I have a trust worth millions of dollars of assets, right? I find somebody, hey, let's get married. No prenup, no nothing, right? Yeah, we'll get married. Like, and then,
First marriage, or was this one of
first marriage. That's where you learn the lessons, right?
Sometimes.
So let's say I have this trust. It's my trust. It's in my name. And let's say maybe I'm not the only one with the trust. It's me and my siblings or whatever, right? And then I get married, no prenup, no nothing, don't need to talk about it. I feel safe. I got my trust.
You're in love.
I'm in love, you know what I mean? And boom, didn't see it coming. She's trying to take me out to the cleaners, you know what I mean?
that never happened.
It totally never happens. But she didn't know this was all in the trust, right? She just thought this was all my stuff. Now she's like, I'm entitled to half of your wealth or whatever it is, right? Is that safeguarded? Like she can never go after that? Like, well, first of all, it's not mine. It's under a trust. You don't have access to it.
So a trust is not an asset protection tool. We always say that, especially for you as the creator. For your beneficiaries, that's a different story. But if it all depends, how she was saying, if you created this before marriage, it's all titled to your name, it's your separate trust, and you did nothing during the course of marriage to kind of commingle or retitle, then no, it's going to be harder for her to have a claim on it. But I'm sure there's ways, and I'm not a divorce attorney, her sister is, where, people get a percentage of something depending on other factors. But usually, kind of to answer your question, if you have taken the steps to kind of keep it separate, it's under your name, then it's going to be harder for her to claim it.
Okay.
Right.
So guys, or ladies, whoever comes in with the money, get a trust before marriage.
Well, there's a lot of generational wealth. So a lot
Right.
of people come in to money because their family has money, right? Or they have assets that have been passed down to them. That's legally separate property.
Right.
So what's yours is yours.
Right.
Now, when you're super in love and you decide you want to commingle things, you change the character of the asset. That's when you run into problems. But if you have your stuff in a trust and it's in like this family trust and it was before her, it would be hard. I mean, she can make arguments if depending on the support and stuff, but.
What is that? You guys both said commingle. Is that like a legal term? I've heard that as
Like if she's living in my house
And she
that's under
starts
the trust.
making mortgage payments,
Okay.
there's, she
Starts
makes
sharing
renovations
bills.
to your
just
home.
make sure she doesn't pay none of the mortgage. I got it taken care of, babe. That's why I make the money, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think it goes to stuff like that. There's arguments to be made if you've lived there for so many years and you've been a stay-at-home mom. If you pay the mortgage, if you have helped someone start their own business and they work and that's been your home. So it really depends on this is terrible, but the judge, the arguments to be made, if that person was added on title. So commingling is a huge thing. Is the second you add someone on title, like a bank account, a joint owner of a bank account, you've commingled.
Yeah.
Right.
So I heard a terrible story recently. Actually, I know the guy. We're not gonna name him. Anonymous.
Is he gonna be watching?
Let's
'Cause
call.
he might know the story.
Let's call him Bob. Right. So Bob is a smart guy. He figured out how to make money really early in his 20s. Made a bunch of money. Has a bunch of money. So much money, he was able to buy a house in Coronado cash.
Oh, wow.
So he met this lady, and
It's all downhill.
he met this lady, and she's just he was infatuated with her, and so then she finessed him. It was a part of a 7-year finesse. It was amazing, her dedication of finesse. And
That's dedication.
and so she got in love, gaslit him or whatever, or maybe he was just easy to gaslight, and pretty much got married quickly. And then because they got married, now they wanted to buy a house. They bought a house.
Quickly, 7 years she finessed him.
No, they were married for 7 years. So they got married.
beginning, yeah.
They got married, bought a house in Coronado cash. She was sort of there when he was signing the paper. So he was like, she was like, well, I want to feel like if we're married, I have a piece of this, right? So he's like, all right, well, let's put your name on the title as well. And then she's like, well, I want kids now. And he's like, well, I already have kids, I don't really need any more.
Age gap?
Not too far off. Not too
So
far.
was it
Maybe
like a
maybe
25, 30 year,
24. No, not like, I would say maybe like 10 or less.
Oh, okay.
And so she made him adopt a kid because she wanted a kid so bad, and for whatever reason she couldn't have her own. And so they adopted a kid, and then 7 years, boom, blindsided him. Talked to all the top attorneys, had a full attorney team. I want a divorce. Like, whoa. Oh, and I already talked to them. I have the own house. You gotta get me child support, all this stuff. And because even though he had a prenup, she finessed him, got the child support, got the house, got everything, got more than $500,000. What was something he could have did to protect himself?
Not marry her.
But here's the reality. Like most people in general, especially men, like when they're in love, they're like idealistic. They're like, oh, she loves me. She's X, Y, and Z. Maybe she's my dream girl, and so they don't want to shake shake the waters too much. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, like I put her on the house. I did this. You know, they don't want to create this rift.
That's a tough one because I think everybody, we talk about this, girls love to live in fairy tale too. Like we love to. And I really dislike, I mean, yes, we're in the legal field. We talk about asset protection. We talk about these things. We laugh about these stories. But I really dislike the mentality. I think we're both kind of traditionalists in a sense, and we're kind of old-fashioned, right? So it's a fine line when you talk about what can you do before entering a marriage so that never occurs, because then, in my opinion, and I know hers too, you take a little bit of the risk and romance and love away, right? If everything in life is like a transaction and a business deal, what's the point? So it's hard to say because you do want to be smart. So like my biggest thing is you should protect what was yours before entering that marriage, okay? But when you enter a marriage, if you want to give it a fair shot and you hope and believe you're marrying the right person, you should enter that marriage believing you're doing it together. You're a team. It's a marriage, right? Hence the community. So,
Because they bought the property after marriage, is that what it was?
Well, they got married. And keep in mind, this wonderful lady, she had nothing, not two dimes to rub together. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he bought the property cash, amazing.
Coronado too.
In Coronado,
My
yeah.
favorite place. Yeah.
Yeah.
But during the course of marriage or before?
Like right in the beginning of their marriage.
Yeah. So then
But after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, and we all want to live in this fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like we're all traditionalists here, right? So like when we get married, it's like, no, this is for life.
Yeah.
I'm getting married
Yeah.
for life. I don't believe in divorce, you know, like through the ups and downs, through death do us part, and I don't see no one dying. And so, but that's not the reality. And you guys, and that's not the reality. There are people out here with this long finesse game, which is actually really impressive.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
You can't. You know how we talked about like controlling beyond the grave, right? Is a no-no in terms of estate planning. Again, we're not divorce attorneys, and you have to help your client set up the best scenario in the event something terrible like that does happen. But you don't want to go into things too much. You know, yes, maybe she didn't have a dime, or maybe some red flags were there that he ignored. We all ignore red flags. we all do. We're human, right? So, again, fine line. You have to know and be willing to take some risk and be okay with that to give something a fair shot. And if you're not, then you kind of maybe need to question, is this like a situation I'm comfortable with? That if I do experience some loss, like you can't come out of anything if you do end up divorced with no loss, because it's a loss to be divorced in the first place, right? But there are things you could do to try to protect what you've built prior. Or he bought that house, and it's normal for somebody to say, hey, I want something to feel like it's ours together, and I want to be on title.
Let's get a dog.
I think most women and men, but I'll speak for women, if they get married and they buy a house, I think most women want to be on title.
Yeah.
For the most part,
Yeah.
if you're buying it together
sure.
at that time.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying. Like, it depends. Like, if it's before marriage and it's in your name, you can keep it separate. Do not commingle. Do not put her on title. You know, things like that, right? But after marriage, that's a different story. Because, at that point, they're buying it, community property, it belongs to both of them. You know what I mean?
So after marriage, you can't be like, I'm gonna buy this house, but I'm gonna put it in my trust. You can't do, or can you be like, I'm buying this house, putting it in my trust?
So there's exceptions to that. I think it depends on what money are you using. Is it inheritance? Inheritance is separate property. It's yours, right? And again, I'm not a divorce lawyer. Her sister would know this much better. But
Call her real quick.
Put it on the phone.
FaceTime.
I think it depends on, where is that funds coming from. But if it's if you're working and then you go buy a house, well, that's community property money. That's in the course of marriage, right?
That makes sense.
So then,
it can get intricate.
yes,
For
sure.
Yeah.
exactly.
Sorry.
Okay, so I have a question, Chantal,
Yes.
because you had mentioned a few times about starting a family, and you said you're Italian, right? So I'm sure you have a big
I am.
family.
Italian and Belgian. I
Belgian-
can't leave
oh,
my
okay.
dad out. He
Okay,
was
don't leave
born
that-
and
don't leave
raised
pops
in
out.
Belgium.
But
I
so
was like, I choose the more dominant one. It's Italian, clearly, but I can't leave him out.
so in the future, like with growing the firm, how do you envision kind of like segueing into that role as like a mother,
Yeah.
well, having a firm and how demanding that is?
So Nelly is actually a second, more recent, a couple months ago. So she
Congratulations.
has
Thank you,
2 little
thank you.
girls. My sister has a family law firm and has 3 boys under 6, and it's hers. And so I think again, you go into business together, or you're surrounded by like-minded people, right? You get to a stage in life, you naturally gravitate to people who have the same goals as you. So for myself, I just look at the both of them, which is what I envisioned before they even brought kids into the world, because I think we all thought the same. You can do it all. Women can do a lot. So I think the transition with estate planning is just, managing your time in a way that you're able to work, you're able to set your clients, you're able to set these speaking engagements, just like she's here today, but has her 2 babies. And then you can also take on the role of going home and spending time with your children. So it's really where you want to be in your career. So I think both her and I always said we opt to not try to just be strictly like career,
Yeah.
because family's so important to us that it's a balance. Like maybe you will say to yourself, okay, I don't want to litigate, and maybe I'll take on less clients right now, but this will give me the leniency to be able to have a baby, have more than one baby, spend time with the baby, but then also have my career that I worked so hard for and that I enjoy. So
Absolutely.
there's ways to, and when you have a partner, like, I bring up my sister because she's really like heading it as the main attorney. But when you have a partner, it really helps. So a lot.
Yes.
Definitely.
I've been on maternity leave for 3 months, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one's been out there solo, just
Really?
There you go.
running the firm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So-
that's
Well, that's ideal, obviously.
Yeah.
I just had my 3rd baby, by the way.
Oh, congrats!
Yeah,
Nice.
2 weeks ago.
Oh,
So
boy or
we're right there
girl?
with you, a girl.
A girl.
Yeah. So
Is
one
that
boy
why
and
there's
2
a
girls.
birth partner?
That's so
book here?
funny. You noticed
I
that?
was like, I've been looking that up. Can I borrow that book?
That's so funny.
Show it to my husband.
I was like, we got to bring all the books to make the bookshelf look better. I was like, don't worry, I'm gonna turn it around, bro. I'm gonna turn it around. And that's the first thing you noticed.
No,
That's
for
so
sure.
funny.
It's like staring at me.
We got all these entrepreneurship books, and we got 5 love language. How to birth.
What to expect when expecting.
Well, yeah, exactly. I
love
love it.
that.
Love
Yeah,
it.
it's so
yeah.
funny.
And you know what's funny is that's why I got into being an entrepreneur, amongst other reasons, was because when I had kids, I wanted to be like, I'm gonna take my kids into work with me. I want to take them with me. I don't want to be working somewhere where you're not allowed to do that. You can't bring your kids to work. I wanted to have full control over that because family is so important. And I think that's why entrepreneurship is so important as well. Although there are times where you're like, I need a break and I need I got to focus on the business and I can't. Multitask.
I saw a video and it said, no one's more productive than a mom that runs her own business. And I really felt
You
that.
have to be so organized.
Yes, you really do, because you
Yeah.
have a window where you have to
Yeah.
get so much stuff done.
Right.
So then you find constantly you're reinventing ways of how can I do this in the best possible way to fit in, and still good quality work, but kind of get it done in this time frame,
Yeah.
right?
With estate planning, is it the type of law firm where you could really grow like the number of attorneys that are in it and just keep growing and get larger? Is that
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so? Is that
I
the
think,
goal? What's the goal for you guys?
We've talked about it. Her and I, we're both like to be in control.
Uh-huh.
And I think
A little bit of control.
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Right.
And I think one day it'll maybe come down to that where we're like, okay, how much do you want to let go? But so far, we've been able to handle it on our own.
Yeah.
And on our own terms, which I
Got
think
you.
is important.
I think it's hard to like relinquish the control or
Yeah.
the trust. And then, there's something with estate planning that when people call and they're like, what sets you apart? There's a ton of estate planning attorneys, right? There's estate planning mills that like say, oh, trust 500. What sets you apart? And one of the things with her and I is we are so one-on-one. Like we do so much hand-holding.
Right.
And instead of just making it like, hey, deal with our paralegal, deal with our associate, we'll see you, we'll talk to you for 10 minutes. It being her and I, which can be very stressful at times, that we don't have like a bigger team, but it's also so rewarding because we do so much of the one-on-one and we gain these friendships with our clients. Not all of them. Some of them, you know, it's like, bye, wish you the best. But most of them become really good friends of ours in a sense and close to us, and they entrust in us. And we wouldn't get to do that if we were too big of a team. So the mom and pop size feels right now.
We had somebody, you know, call from, 2 days ago, and he's an older gentleman, and, you know, he wants to come to the office and meet me. And I was giving him directions, and I was like, well, this is how, you know, you come in. And I was like, do you know how to operate like maps on your phone? He's like, no. I said, do you have somebody to bring you? And he said, no. And just, you know, my guilt kicks in. Okay, I'll come to you. Where do you live? And that's kind of what her and I do. We do that a lot. We do house calls. You know, we genuinely care. Yeah.
I feel like we hear that a lot. That's like the dilemma of like staying boutique where you can continue being hands-on.
Right.
But then also having the desire to grow, I guess. And so is there an ability, like how does a law firm grow while still maintaining that hands-on boutique feeling?
It's possible. I think what, you know, and you guys know this with like the whole entrepreneur and business owner, the law is just a small percentage of what we have to do, right? We have to market, we have to do accounting, we have to run a business. I mean, it's much more than just practicing the law and doing probate. I think it's possible depending on like the scale you're actually looking for. Again, that would mean giving up some control if we could get there. But
and for us,
she's not with it.
she's getting uncomfortable.
She's like, not you, like, save me.
Say something now.
It's so easy because, you know, with her and I, if there's something, we call each other, we talk multiple times a day if we don't see each other for work. And I sometimes worry of the dynamic of having to babysit an attorney or multiple attorneys the same way we would have to be babysat at a firm, you know. It's not to be offensive, but it's this, you bring in a level of like a new storyline, some drama, some hand-holding that it's just really easy. It flows. And even if our workload is heavier at times, it just flows. So there's a fear in messing up that flow.
You just need somebody who's honestly 70 to 80% of what you are to be successful. And you can always like have that one attorney that you handhold, and it's a little bit of an investment, like anything. And then teach them, be like, okay, now you're gonna, what I taught you, you're gonna teach the team now.
Right.
You know, and further separate yourself to where you guys are just worrying about the CEO. Than just the hand holding.
We like doing the speaking seminars. We like going out there. You know, we
you have
do
more
that
time
a
doing
lot.
that.
Preferably that.
But it's it's that balance that we keep, and we're also getting better at. Again, we constantly feel a lot of guilt. I will say we've been told a lot of times, especially by our male, counterparts, and they tell us like, no, you can't be so, just think of it this way. Tell them this much money, do this, and we feel a lot of guilt. But now we're really learning, be like, this is going to be difficult. This individual might be very challenging. It might not be worth it, right? And we've been starting to do that a little bit more.
Right.
And that's a big win for us,
a big win. We're learning.
Getting to the point where you can kind of pick and choose your clients.
Oh, yeah. We're
and,
definitely.
the type of people that you want to work with.
Right.
And then having the luxury to be able to say no, not worried about, we need to get this, case in.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're past that because of the
great.
headaches that it brought, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, it's like setting the boundary, and we want to be problem solvers. Like, this person's difficult, but we'll get it done.
It's like that mentality.
challenge.
I'll change him.
Right, yeah.
I'll do it. I can change it. And I think we both are a little stubborn in a good way. Where we think like, if we think we can't do it, or we're told we can't do it, we're gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna prove you wrong.
There you go.
But now we're like, let's just have a peaceful life. Nothing to prove here. That person's probably not going to make our day-to-day much easier. So it's, it's not enough money to make or break. So it's not something that is worth like being stressed, like physically stressed, mentally, emotionally.
Right,
It's
exactly.
not, because then you can't be your best version for, you know, your home life or your other clients, or in court you'll stumble and be like, oh, this one client's, you know, in the back of my mind.
Not all money is good money.
So
No.
Yeah.
is there challenges you face as being a woman law firm, and also the challenges, but what are the advantages?
I think women and being younger has been something that we struggled with a little bit initially, because people were like, well, you're so young. How would you
Right.
even know how to, and you know,
As
thank
far
you.
as like
Yeah.
trust or credibility or something?
Yeah. I think people kind of expect to see that older, you know, more seasoned attorney come in. And
The ball guy with like
Yeah.
just the hair right here and a brown suit.
exactly.
And they see you guys
exactly.
walking, they're like, whoa, okay,
Whoa.
You're attorneys?
So, but we kind of turned that to our advantage, because estate planning, look, there's so many different steps, right? We create the trust, and then comes a time when that person passes away, and then we deal with the kids, right?
Right.
So it's actually beneficial sometimes to have a younger attorney, because we'll be there on the other
Yeah.
end too, which has happened quite a lot. We,
Interesting.
you know, I do the trust administrations, and I've administered so many of my own trusts.
Wow.
That has happened.
I was going to
right?
ask you that actually
Yeah.
before. You started one and then actually ended up.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
crazy.
that's happened so many times, and
Wow.
people are like, well, yeah, I like that. And once they think about it, because we get a lot of calls, you know, the attorney retired or passed away, can you come in and help, you know, versus with us, it's like, okay, well, hopefully we'll
We're
be
still
here.
kicking.
We're still
You're
kicking.
still
We'll be
kicking.
here for a long time, you know?
That was actually a question I wanted to ask, is what happens when the person, like your attorney who's handling your trust,
Yes.
what happens when they pass away?
You know, most estate planning attorneys can administer a trust, right? So it doesn't have to be that specific attorney that drafted it has to not come administer it, because that just doesn't work. So most of us could administer it,
Okay.
right?
Got it.
So that's the thing. But you know, people prefer it's a long-term relationship, right? And they like to come back to you, and then they make changes throughout the years, and they keep calling you, and they just like having maybe a younger attorney there.
Yeah.
As far as the female part, I think when we started our firm, we got a lot of, advice that we didn't necessarily ask for it. We got a lot of, some
Yeah.
of it was weird. I remember this one
I'm
in
sure.
the show was like, you two should wear glasses. And I was like, what for? I don't have any problems with my eyes. It's like, no, it'll just make you more, it'll make
Look more professional.
Professional.
Look like an attorney, I guess. I don't know how that even fit
And
in.
then they
to
said wear wedding
ri-
bands.
Yeah, wear
we
wedding
weren't
bands.
married at the time. Wear wedding bands. So I was like,
Right.
why? So things like that. We got a lot of
Just
those.
stupid guys.
I'm not married. I'm thinking about wearing one just so
Yeah,
people
that
don't
could-
ask
yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
questions.
Well, that's
He's
an
like,
old-
so your
old school
clients don't hit
style.
on you.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the reasoning was, but that was the type of advice her and I would get constantly. It's like, okay.
I think there's just this like level of need for people to give suggestions, which
Yeah.
is fine. Some are warranted, some aren't. And yeah, we've had a lot of interesting comments. However, I will say though, because you said the disadvantages and the advantages, right?
Right.
And I think so many people focus on disadvantages in situations like,
Right.
oh, I'm a female and it's male dominated and this and that. And in my opinion, it was like more motivation to prove everybody wrong, and more motivation to say, well, use it towards your advantage. I mean, what's the need to sit there and be like, poor me, I'm a female, so this may or may not happen, instead of saying, great, I'm a female. I could start my own business. I could do well at my own business. I could do well at my own business with my best friend, which people said, that could never work either. And then you take a situation and you're like, no, let's turn it into an advantage.
it sets you apart.
It does.
Yeah.
It really
Absolutely.
does.
What would, I'm curious.
You laugh first. I'm worried about this question.
No, because you say you got some like really weird advice. What's like the weirdest advice you guys got?
Oh, God, I know this one.
Okay, I'm going to let you go. Because I personally think the wearing glasses, the wedding ring thing, whatever people are going to make those judgments.
Our website.
Yeah. Oh.
Our
Oh,
website.
okay.
What-
I'll let her tell you.
What is it?
Oh, our website is DP Law.
I didn't think about that, but I
Yeah,
can see,
so we got so many messages about that, and we don't know.
no
We're so
idea.
naive. I mean,
We had no
to
idea.
explain how naive her and I are.
This is a kids show, guys.
Yeah. No. Like,
Let's keep it PG.
no, you know the song
13.
"I'm in Love with the Coco"?
Yeah.
We didn't understand what that was about. She said one thing, I said another. We don't need to repeat what
You're
it
like,
was.
you're talking about
Mine
Chanel?
was chocolate. Mine was chocolate. And hers was something else, but super naive, right? So
And that's the arguments her and I have. That's the
Yeah.
extent of our argument. Is like, that's not what it means. No, it means this, and we're both wrong. We're like completely wrong. So
so wrong. So that was the weirdest, I would say, when people are like, you need to change the name of your firm. And I said, what?
we're like, it's our last name.
Do you guys still get that? Do you still get it to this day?
No, it's less now.
It's
What's
less.
funny is we know he was actually on your show too, Irving.
Irving,
Irving,
yeah.
yeah.
His is also DP.
DP.
And
It
I'm like,
is.
I asked him, I
It
said,
is.
He
hey,
copied us.
he for sure, just kidding.
copied
But I asked him, I said, hey,
You hear that?
did you get phone calls, text messages, emails, Facebook DMs, about changing your name? And he goes, no, why?
There you go. Case in point.
Yeah, so that was.
How long ago did you guys start the firm?
10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Don't age us right now, but it's been a decade.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
it's been a while. Yeah.
So, has it been like ups and downs? Has it been steady? Like, what's the experience in over like the 10
It's
years?
definitely been a steady growth. I
Yeah.
think we did so great at not trying to be like, oh my God, we're lawyers starting a business. We're going to go get the biggest office. We're going to do the
Yeah.
flashiest
Yeah.
things. We're like, no. We remain humble. We do things very conservative, and then you grow from there, right? So, like the first year is tough. The first year and a half, you're putting in your business. You're not really taking salary, and then you start to see growth, and it's been more and more growth. And then you do different speaking seminars. You do
Yeah.
cool podcasts with
Yeah.
cool people, and then
Absolutely.
it just keeps growing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Who?
I like
Do
your
you gu- do you-
question.
do you-
Because you're in there and you're thinking and you're just trying to figure out how to say it. And when I see I see the laugh and I'm like, oh, here we go.
No, it's a very appropriate question right now. Because you guys are beautiful speakers, right? I could just tell you guys are awesome on stage. Now, do you guys both speak on stage? Do you guys speak on stage together, or do you guys do it separately? How do you-
Both, I would say.
Yeah, we both do.
Yeah.
This last year we were part of and have been part of this. It's for tech companies in San Diego. They're like biotech companies, and their HR brings us in, and we speak, any given week on estate planning. And so those we've traded off. And then Nastaran had the baby, so
Yeah, don't be humble. She did most of that. I did two or what?
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's okay.
I had the baby. So, yeah.
we take turns doing
Yeah,
things. That's teamwork, right? But yeah, I think we like to do it together because
Yeah.
we both have
Yeah.
sides of each other that we could share and embarrass each other
That's
or
cool.
talk about stories.
Do you guys have like a set? Do you have like a set like performance that you do every time when you guys are working together, or is it like
we kind
always
of go
changing?
with the
Freestyle?
flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
every
Freestyle.
time. We've
Yeah.
never practiced. We just go with the flow of,
Yeah.
And then we do different things at the firm, right? So then she'll touch on the things she does, and I'll touch on the things I do. But
Right.
yeah.
And so what started the speaking engagements? Like how many years ago did that start?
A long time ago,
Yeah.
we did like the ESPN radios, right?
Yeah. And I did the Swedish,
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of like different Swedish events. I'd go and speak. Yeah.
That's
So-
cool. Do you guys see that going even farther and farther, like speaking
I
on
would
larger and larger
We
stages?
would love
Yes.
that.
Wait, are you guys not posting this stuff on social media?
Come on.
Dude, you guys are
That's how you get
No,
those
I
big
know.
you guys are
kids.
perfect for social media. You're already doing speaking engagements.
I want maybe we could do Joe Rogan next.
There you go. We'll call Joe for you. We'll call Joe.
No, we got to get better at that.
Yeah, we
What,
do.
what's stopping you guys? Like, you guys are perfect for social media.
We're not-
Instant virality.
You know what? We're not big social media people.
We're really not.
We're so boring.
Yeah,
like
we are.
What makes you? I'm not
we really
bored.
are.
This is not boring.
No, this is so fun, but like
Right.
our social medias are boring. Like she's
Right.
barely active. Mine is like my nephews and my family. Like
So what do you think your hesitation is towards putting out like this type of conversation on social media?
no hesitation.
Yeah.
I think we just have a tendency not to be so social media driven. And I think one of the things we've always talked about is in terms of growth, definitely doing more and more. But it's not intentional. It's just that we're not huge social media.
I think maybe initially for me, I was a little worried. I was like, if we're just going to constantly be on, Facebook and Instagram, maybe they'll say, oh, here you go. Like, two young girls, this is how they do it. And this is not traditional, this is not what attorneys do. But now, seeing it's happening a lot, and, it definitely should be something we should revisit.
Like, we're not influencers, but
But you could be. No.
I wouldn't say. I would say you're absolutely influencers.
Oh,
The fact that you're speaking on stage, you're influencing the crowd. You guys are natural influencers as well. Very well spoken, very passionate, which is huge. And you're here on this podcast right now too, influencing our viewers.
This is great. This is so much fun. We can come every week if you'd like.
Sure, please.
It doesn't have to be about law.
It's refreshing.
Well, I mean, so after this podcast, you'll actually be able to see, because we'll, create some clips of this, right?
Okay.
And then, it's going to look like there, but we'll kind of position it in a way that'll look really cool. And you'll see kind of what it looks like to see yourself in that kind of authority position. Because if you're not, do you guys ever watch back like your speeches?
It drives us nuts.
I bet.
Yeah.
We criticize ourselves a lot.
You're like, oh, I sound so weird.
I'm like, do you hear my lisp? Is it strong today?
Yeah, she has a list.
You do?
I didn't notice.
It's not bad.
Nah.
I'm proud of you.
I don't know if any lift at all. There's nothing there.
Do you think one of the reasons you don't do social media as well is because how toxic social media is?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because, we're here to teach about our profession, right? And we talk about like the advantages and the disadvantages. And I think we laugh about it now, but it's like, okay, we're going to post a video, and not for anything because we don't get set apart from anyone, but we're going to get DMs, and it's probably, some of them are going to be about trust and some of them are not going to be about trust. And
that comes with the territory.
A few of them will be about trust. The other ones will be talking about your website.
The name of your company.
Exactly. But and again, it's not that we're special. It's just the toxic social media now. And I think her and I are like, okay, we want to be taken serious in our profession. I mean, it's been a decade. I think we've established that. But I think that's kind of the hesitation always is, do we expand? And it is knowledge. We're sharing knowledge, and very important knowledge. But we also want to avoid the toxicity of social media and where it's gone. So the fine line.
What if we tell you you can be on social media at the highest level, the way you guys deserve, and without having to deal with any of that toxicity?
Oh, we like that.
Okay, we'll talk after the podcast.
Okay.
We'll talk after the podcast.
You're going to respond to messages for us.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll weed all those, filter all that out.
Nice.
One thing that Omid actually talks about a lot, what he's really passionate about, is influencing like the next generation of trial attorneys, right? Like that's his thing.
Right.
Outside of what he's doing in the courtroom, he wants to like start grooming and influence the next generation. Are you guys passionate about that in any way, or do you guys do any work with any like younger attorneys, or try to?
Yes.
You
that
were
regard.
just at a panel for that.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely are. I just did a panel last Friday. I talked to you both a little bit about it
Right.
before the podcast.
Oh, that one?
Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
the fun
one. The fun one. But it was for, Thomas Jefferson. We both went to law school there. And it was for students for La Raza that to kind of, actually it was Irving's part of La Raza. He asked for us to come speak. And I think it's important. We talked and we said, hey, we were in that position. Right? That was us.
Right.
My younger brother's in that position now. And you think you know everything, or you feel lost. It's one or the other at that point. And I think it's kind of nice to be that person now that gets asked to go share the do's and the don'ts with students. I was there were 10 attorneys, and I was there obviously like, oh, don't stress, enjoy, have fun, it's going to be okay. But that's not what law students are thinking. They're thinking about passing the bar and getting through each exam. So I think her and I, through the speaking engagements, we like to go educate people on this, and hopefully we could take it much larger and hopefully maybe we'll influence some students to go into estate planning.
Absolutely.
And not be scared to start their own firms. And
Oh, yeah. Right.
not be scared to partner up.
Right, because we got a few questions about that. Like,
Yeah.
how was
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
from younger people? How was it opening up your own firm?
Yeah.
Because that's the real practical advice, that I think a lot of people look. It's like first of all, they're inundated with just school,
Right.
and
Right.
then you're like, well, this is real life. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you, you're gonna pass the bar, guys. Don't worry. But
Right,
this is what
right.
happens next.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
You'll probably never use 95% of what you learn in
Like-
school.
Right, exactly.
Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I guess the bar exam wasn't that bad. It's just like the pressures while you're in it and
Right.
experiencing it and the
Right.
fear. But, some people are not meant to be entrepreneurs. And I say that with respect. Like,
That's true.
some people's personalities are better suited being in the office because there comes a lot of networking, a lot.
Speak on it.
Oh, I mean, her and I, the amount of networking we did when we started, she said it. We went to everything, every day, nonstop for probably 2 years. You became exhausted. Like, it was a full-time job to network. And I think you have to understand who you are as a person and, again, what your goals are, because some people are better suited working, in-house counsel, and you got to figure that out. You got to navigate. And maybe we share stories and people are like, oh my God, I definitely don't want to deal with that. I just want to clock in and clock out. And that's great.
Right.
That's great. But hopefully we can, at least ease fears if people do want to go out on their own, because it's not that scary and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, exactly.
I also say who you partner with.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so
Important.
important
Oh, yes.
because
Definitely.
I don't think I could have done this on my own. But with her, she's so much calmer and she could calm me down because sometimes I'll be too much of a perfectionist and I get too worried and I'm like,
Yeah.
can't release the control of the work I've done. And she'll be like, it's great, let it go.
Right.
And, just something like that,
Yeah.
just that reassurance. And that's why I say there's nobody else I could be in business with because she really calms me down, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of partnership nightmare stories.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
with him and I, we both kind of had those experiences prior to linking up. And so when him and I, it was love at first sight as well, just like you guys.
That's we bonded over spicy food. What'd you bond over?
Making money.
But
That works.
Yeah. But like when two people's like visions kind of align,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's very surprising when you experience that. You're like, oh, you think that way too, and it's like you're used to dealing with people who are like you're trying to get them to understand where you're
Right.
going, and
Right.
that's exhausting in itself. And then you all of a sudden meet somebody, and it's like, oh, they're right there, totally aligned
Right.
with what you're thinking or what your vision is.
Absolutely.
And then that's probably what clicked for you guys. Even though your like styles are complementary in business, it's still the same vision, right? At the end of the
Absolutely.
day.
And it's
Yeah.
so much more fun when you have a partner.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The day to day, just grinding.
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
talk back and forth. It just makes it so much fun.
It's
Right.
so
And-
much fun.
And you said something too, like not everyone should be entrepreneurs. And we live in a time now where entrepreneurship is so preached about, and where we try to, hey, everyone should be an entrepreneur. I used to be one of those guys where I believed everyone should be an entrepreneur because I found it to be like, I could make so much money and work on my own time, you know what I mean, and
Right.
struggle. But now that I'm a little bit older, I realize this shit's hard. You know what I mean? And unless you're willing to struggle and work 5 a.m. to 9, and you don't get time off and you don't have time to watch football if that's your thing, or do whatever your hobbies are and fully dedicated and going to networking events and stepping out of your comfort zone a lot. And a lot of people just aren't willing to do that. And I think some people are made just to be in the office working
We,
a 9
we
to
need
5.
the employees, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody can't be the
yeah.
boss.
Exactly.
It's a hustle because it's like, people ask us, how do you get your clients and how do you do this? And sometimes, and this goes with social media and just life, people see things on the outside. And it's like, oh, I can do that. It looks so easy. My younger brother was like, well, I think I want to do what you do because you've gone to Mexico like 6 times and you were in Italy working and da-da-da. But the reality of it is for us, like with estate planning, because we don't do litigation, our turnover rate has to be so high, okay? And it's us, we're mom and pop. So when you think about it and you take a step back, you have to figure, well, what are these two women doing to make sure their turnover rate is that high, and we're working really hard,
Yeah.
and we're networking, and we're making connections, and our reputation has got us to where we're at. So it's not just what you see after 10 years. There's a lot that goes in to keep that turnover.
Right. And with such a high turnover rate, it sounds like that your pipeline needs to literally be constantly filled.
Constant.
Yeah.
And so it's like, her and I, when we have our calls, it's like, okay, we're ending 2023. We're going into 2024. What are we going to do in 2024? We manifest like, okay, we did this well this year. This is where we want to be the next year. How are we going to do that though? Do we need to do different referral groups? Do we need to cut back our time on other, speaking engagements that maybe we feel isn't the best for our business? But no one sees like the grind behind the scenes.
They see the result, and they're like,
Yeah,
your brother
they
is
see
like,
the
oh,
result.
Mexico,
You're
we're
in
going to Mexico.
I was like, this is literally 6 times this year, maybe, and it wasn't 6. But I was like, what about 9 years prior?
Right.
Going.
No one multitasks like her. Nobody. She could be on the phone writing something while having, like the judge is on the phone. I've seen this. We're at a restaurant. She's talking to me. She's writing something, and she could manage everything perfectly.
Multitasker.
Huge.
That's a
multitask.
skill.
It really is.
Yeah. He gets mad at me all the time because when I'm messaging either clients or our team, and I'm trying to get things done, he's trying to tell me something that we got to be doing, and then he knows as soon as I look at my phone, the world is shut out. I'm not a multitasker, and he'll be talking. He's like, "Bro, you didn't even hear what I said." I was like, "Yeah, I did, man. You said A, B, and C, right?"
No, she can hold like 10 conversations at once.
That's a
I've
skill.
seen her in
Yeah.
act. It's crazy. Like I'll be talking to somebody at an event. She'll be talking to like 3 other people, and then she'll come back. She'll like, hey, by the way, you said this and this and that. I was
Yeah.
like, how'd you hear me? You're in the middle of a conversation.
I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse.
Honestly, I ask myself that all the time.
because it's like you can't help it. It's like I can't help but hear what that person's saying and what that person's saying at the same time. My brain can't like compartmentalize.
Oh, wow.
Like his can just shut everything off and boom. Mine's like, what is everybody saying?
I sent her on Instagram like a meme. I think it was last night, and it was something like that. Like I can't. While everybody's like sleeping, I'm
Right.
here like
My skill is-
Yeah.
my skill is to think. Like,
Right.
and I don't know. It's a blessing sometimes, but I'm like, man, I think I want to start like forgetting things, and, like, shutting certain parts off, and just
Yeah.
not being so much of a multitasker. Because you get in a routine where, like, we're both very responsive attorneys. But then I'm like, why am I responding this fast? Like, and we're both responsive, but it becomes a pattern where you're like, well, I'm typing an email, but this person
Constantly
texts
distracted
me,
and
so I
doing
need
your
to
thing.
text them back. And
Right.
while I'm writing this petition, well, my phone's ringing, so I should get this call at the same time. And
Right.
I'm like, oh, I need to slow down. Like,
Yeah.
it's a great tool to have to multitask, but it's also nice to just.
You ever accidentally, you're texting so many people, handling so many things, you start calling people the wrong name on accident?
I've had very few situations that was enough to make sure that I pause and see who I'm texting.
Yeah.
before-
We all had to develop that skill at one point.
You
We're
learn
like,
your
all right, don't
lesson.
respond right away. Look up, look at the person's name, look back down. All right, now I can text.
Yeah.
But at least you can delete text now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And send.
Yeah.
Although, unless your laptop iMessage is open. Let me teach you guys a trick.
All right.
What's the
You
secret?
think you can unsend messages on a cell phone, but if your iMessage on your laptop is open, usually the message still comes through. So,
Ooh, I gotta be careful with that.
for everyone listening,
Oh, well, okay.
sign out of your iMessage on your laptop.
Literally.
Yeah, like when I'm doing business as soon as I wake up, half asleep. I'm responding to messages. I'm getting everything done, like half asleep, like. And then even when I'm going to bed, I'm doing the same thing, and the phone's falling on my face, and I'm like, oh, hold on, let me finish this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're both like that too. We're guilty of waking up early and just sending memes and laughing back and forth. That toxic social media, right?
You got to keep it fun, though. You got to keep it fun.
You do.
What kind of advice would you give the up and comers who want to get into maybe
Estate plan.
estate planning?
I would say don't doubt yourself. You could do it.
I
That's
thought
the
she
bit-
was gonna say, "Don't do it."
I would say
I
don't
thought
do
he was
it.
going there. I'm like, okay.
You're like, I could see that.
I think people
So motivational.
overcomplicate things a lot, right? And they always think like, I'm like this too. Worst case, worst case of what if I do this and it fails and then this and then that. And, what if it doesn't, right? So, that's my biggest thing. Try it. Why not? Like she said, if it fails, just go back.
Yeah.
Right?
What about maybe like a message to like the young women out there who feel like they're in this male-dominated space and they don't want to just be a worker. They want to open up their own firms.
I mean, again, I think whether there's statistics out there or not, I think her and I know so many professional women, but even if that's true on a numbers basis, like, so what? I mean,
Turn it to your advantage.
Turn it to your advantage. I mean, don't use this as a disadvantage. It's an advantage. It truly is. My dad had told my sister and I early on when we were starting our careers, he's like, listen, you're going to face it a lot. And you can either sit there and be like, oh, this is a disadvantage because, this and there's men and that, or you take it and you're like, oh, great, let me use this to my benefit.
Right.
And it's just mastering that. But for young women, I mean, I think, again, it is incredibly rewarding to figure out that independence and prove whatever, mentality is out there, whether it's male dominant or not, to prove that wrong. And if you feel that so many people feel that way, but you could show them different, then that should light a fire for you to really.
I love that you brought up the statistics because me and my friend group and us, we believe like, there's the statistics, but we're outside of those statistics. If the bell curve is right here, we're over here. So we don't care what these statistics are because we're over here anyways.
Exactly.
So
especially when you're always hearing like, oh, only 5% of businesses make it, like 95% fail. And it's like
we're part of that 5%.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Automatically, I'm part of that 5% because usually the differentiating factor is those who give up and those who don't.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's like, well, did you never stop or did you stop?
Exactly.
Like,
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think so many people focus on the negative points of, oh my God. And I Nelly said it like, why isn't this going to work? And this isn't going to work because of this. And it's like, instead of spending so much energy thinking about that, just do, and you'll see how quick it's not, you don't have to be in that statistic. I don't know why we focus so much on the statistic. I mean, it's hard, but it is not as hard as people make it if you're passionate and you work hard. I mean, it's not as hard as, the fear that holds people back from being an entrepreneur. It's really not.
Yeah. And what's harder, going after or starting your own law firm or living in regret 25 years later talking about, I wish I would have started my own law firm.
Absolutely.
Definitely the regret, I would say.
Yeah.
Because we could, like Nelly said and you guys said, you could start a business, it fails, or it's not what you like, and you go to something else, right? That's great. But if you one day look back and you're like, I should have done this, or I should have done that, I mean, what stopped you? Yeah.
I'm under the belief, too, because I used to say that, too. Oh, if I fail, I can always go back to doing this. And now I'm like, I can't go back to working for nobody. This has to work.
Never. No plan B. No plan B.
I refuse to go work for someone at this point.
I think, I don't think we could do it. Someone asked me that does some legal stuff for the court. They're like, hey, would you ever think about joining this estate planning firm for probates? And I was like, absolutely not. I have the perfect setup. I have my best friend. We're doing great. If we want to travel, we travel. We work hard. Sometimes we work on weekends. I mean, Sunday is like, she knows, Sunday's my work day.
Sundays are Monday.
Yeah, Sunday's my Monday.
And I'm like, listen, that's fine, but just don't message me. Ask me to.
I got kids.
I was like, that's my Sunday.
It's not Sunday fun day for me. Sunday's I need to be home.
It's never been.
No. But
we call it Shmonday.
Monday.
You know, it's funny. Like I always want to work and stuff, and he has this big family. And I'm just like, bro, just bring the kids to the office, man.
And then I did it, and then he's like, yeah, never mind.
You see all those handprints on the window?
Yeah.
Literally,
that's on my house.
Yeah, all handprints.
Her daughter comes to the office sometimes, and she's so well behaved.
Yeah.
She's like the greatest joy to have there because she knows her mom's serious. You cannot you can't talk, you can't be crazy, and she doesn't mess around. She's so well behaved.
How old is she?
She is 4.
She's crazy
4.
in general, but like in a good way.
She said something. I'm like, where did you learn this? But she goes, Mom, why do you have to work? I was like, because I want to bring in money. She goes, just ask Dad for money.
Smart.
Oh, you're gonna
Get on that Coronado
That's
property.
funny.
I know, right?
future hustler.
For sure.
We need to learn from her. She needs to do the next podcast, right?
That'd be great.
You know what's funny? That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah,
Like
we
have
should.
the kids come do the podcast
That would
one
be so
day.
funny.
Just ask them, what's your favorite Play-Doh?
In
Oh,
what?
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I think at this point, like, I don't know how old your kids are, but I feel like the kids that we're around will have so much more interesting things to say than Play-Doh. Like,
Yeah,
They would say some
they say the
funny
darndest-
stuff.
the
The darndest things.
darndest
Yeah.
where did that come from?
Yeah. No.
And it's crazy how much they remember stuff. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they'll be so
yeah.
specific.
Yeah. She one time told me, because my daughter was acting out. She's
Yeah.
like, just start walking and be like, bye, and start walking, and she'll realize, she'll follow.
She'll follow.
I was like, okay. So then I did it. To this day, she's like, you were going to leave me in that store. I was like, no, I wasn't. She remembers.
But she followed her.
Oh, she did follow. But
That's-
she's
yeah.
like, Mom, but you were going to leave me. Like, every
Right.
time. And I was like, no, I am not. And then I'll call her, like, why'd you make me do that?
Why'd you make me do that? She's never gonna forget. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have kids. I thought
Yeah,
it was
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't
outside
even know.
perspective. I thought it was a great idea.
But sometimes it makes you really think, like, I really have to watch what I do and say, because
Oh, yeah.
like my son will be like, hey, Daddy, you remember yesterday when you got mad and then I got sad? And I'm just like, oh, but you're happy now. It's like, yeah, I'm happy now.
Oh,
You made
yeah.
me happy. But I was like, damn, like, don't be remembering that.
yeah.
I was like,
think about
maybe it
that
was
a lot,
because
too, yeah.
you would not eat any of your food, and then you threw it on the ground, and then you started screaming, and then you hit your sister. Maybe that was why.
No, they say her
Yeah.
oldest nephew, he's 6 now.
Yeah, 6.
When he was 5, I asked him, I said, hey, what do you want for Christmas? He goes, I just want some peace and quiet around here.
No,
He's 5 years
Definitely
old.
a product of his dad.
no way. That's hilarious.
I was like, Spider-Man, Batman,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on. like,
Peace and
yeah,
quiet.
Peace and quiet.
Yeah.
6 going on 60. You're like, oh, okay.
He was 5 at the
Yeah,
time.
he was
yeah.
5.
Yeah.
They're sponges.
They really
They're
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
are sponges, but in a good way. And then you think about it, and you're like, oh my God, I was that at one point.
Right.
Everything that
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm gonna tell you right now.
I know. Someone told
very
me
hard.
the other day, they're like, listen, and it was a parent, it was a dad, and he's like, listen, enjoy your life, travel all you
Yeah.
want, get it all out of your system. I was like, okay. And he's like, just trust me, your life's gonna change. And I was like, okay, I understand. I'm surrounded by children that I
Right,
love.
right.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of
Do you
work.
have kids?
Nah,
Okay.
nah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna tell you.
He kind of hesitated there. I was like,
Not that I know of, right?
right? We write that in our trust.
Besides
you know?
besides the 11 kids I got.
Yeah, okay.
He's like, I do, just not gonna not acknowledge on the
Acknowledge,
podcast
yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because him and I our situations are just so completely opposite.
Right.
That it creates a very interesting dynamic.
Okay.
At work, we're equally motivated, and equally as passionate, and have the same exact vision, except it's like, I gotta go, and he's like, no, we have to stay forever. And I'm like, all right, man, but I'll see. I gotta go.
I gotta go, yeah.
And it's hard. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to go, but I also like
Have
need
to.
to and also want to. But at the same time, it's like it's such a beginning hustle. It's such a hustle, right? To grow and to expand and to just get stuff done. It's really hard.
Well, it's like they were talking about,
Yeah.
like the first 2 years is the toughest. The first 18 months of starting a business
Right.
is the toughest, and you need to spend like at least 7 a.m. to like 9 or 10 every single day, just in order just to get everything done, to build out all the systems. And so it's sort of like we sort of have to.
Yes,
No, for sure.
but then when you put yourself, like, for me, I'm more on the, probably, even though I don't have children, more like you guys, where I'm like, okay, yeah, because if you put your perspective of that will be you one day, if you want it to, you understand it. Like, it's a constant balance, but it's kind of like, okay, it'll get done, There's a balance for them to be with their children and give that much of themselves to their family
Yeah.
as well, in order, because you want your business to stay intact and do great, but you also want your family to, right?
Right.
So how do you do that? I mean, you really have to be a master at managing your time.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what it really comes down to is the data is like what you said. You have this window.
Yeah.
The mom has to be the most organized person in the world. If you're running a business, you have this window where you have to be so productive and efficient.
Right.
And that's how I feel like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the window of time that I have here, if I'm not utilizing every minute, I feel like I'm wasting time.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so you got to be super organized. You have to be very clear about what it is you have to do each day. Otherwise, you're
Exactly.
going to kind of be all over the place and feel overwhelmed. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, it's
what it
true.
is.
We have that in common.
Yeah.
So you don't babysit them?
I'm on hell no.
I
I'm not a babysitter. Well, I mean, I'm like yes, but what I mean
Nah, he's Uncle Jeremiah. He's Uncle Jeremiah.
but here's the thing. Like I want to do fun things. You know what I mean? So like when they come to work, I'm just automatically I start thinking like, let's go play. Let's go play. Let's
That's
go.
a dream for
let's
them.
go to the park.
Yeah.
Let's go do this. Let's go do the monkey bars and stuff. But then we're in like
Can't get work
we're in
done
the
when you do
beginning
that.
of our this business
Yeah.
right here. Louder Media is a new business. So it's
When
like
did you guys start it, by the way? Sorry.
July.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
We started July. I mean, I'm gonna use lawyer talk between the both of us. We got 20 years of video experience, but
Okay.
More like
the-
30.
yeah, more like 30. But
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
as Louder Media being its own business, like we just partnered up like in July.
Right.
So
Amazing.
and I understand like how I want to be and how I want him to be with his family is I want you to have all this time with your family and be able to experience these fun things with your family. But right now,
to build.
we got to build the business up fast. Like we're trying to go 0 to 1,000,000 like
Right.
really fast. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to buy a property in Coronado. You know what I mean? So
We all
Where's
are.
Bob? Let's ask
Put
him
it in the
tips.
trust.
Bob's a smart guy. Bob's a smart guy.
Bob in here.
So there is that balance. Like a part of me understands like how to attack a business ferociously, and then a part of it's like trying to be empathetic. Like, but you do have a family, and
Yeah.
you do got to be there for your kids because that's equally as important.
Right, right.
So
Because that's hard. Because when we started, I didn't have kids, and it was just her and I just I could go anytime I wanted. I could come
Right.
home anytime I want. But then now it's just different.
Yeah, and
So-
I think that is probably for most people the way it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Not everyone's situation is the same though, right? Like
right.
things happen in life, you make decisions, whatever, things
Right.
happen, and
Right.
this is my situation. But it's like, yeah, if I was to give advice to somebody, the first thing I would say was start building whatever you want to build before you have kids, because
Yeah.
it does make it really difficult.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's not everybody's situation,
Yeah.
and so got to make the best of it.
I don't think there's any right or wrong
Yeah.
way. Right? Like, I mean, you're never ready for anything. You
There's
just
an
do
easier
it.
way and a harder way.
Yeah.
well,
That's what my parents say.
Yeah.
I try to give him advice and he won't take it. I'm like, just go get milk. And don't come back.
Turn his
come back,
mic off.
come back a millionaire.
Turn his mic off.
And then when you come back with some milk. They didn't have the milk. I had to go somewhere else.
That's so funny.
I'm just joking. Guys.
How old are they?
Are you ready to have your mind blown? 3, 1.5, and 2 weeks.
Wow.
So they're-
Wow, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's tough.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
Very busy.
I put a 4-year gap in between. I was like, I can't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
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 It's crazy, but we're dedicated. And we're gonna get
No,
things
you can
done.
do that.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
So it's
you
just
can.
like,
Yeah.
For sure.
yeah. I mean, I'm here right now.
Yeah.
Where are my kids?
Like,
Where are
like, like when his girl gave birth and stuff, he had to be more home. So we just worked from home and from
Oh.
his house, and that was tough actually working with the kids. Like,
A lot of noise.
Yeah. I mean, when you have one, yeah. So girls are like way easier.
Oh, yeah.
And my daughter is like an angel. Like if it was just her, she could totally occupy herself by herself. But it's just when they're together.
Oh yeah.
Then they go, because then they're like hitting each other and like they play off of each other and they're doing all kinds of things. But if it's just one of them, it's way easier to kind of just manage that. But it's harder to get one.
I feel like I watch my sister with her 3 little boys.
Yeah.
And we'll FaceTime. It's just
Yeah.
constant. Like, hit me, punch me, choke me.
Yeah.
Come here, jump off the table. Okay, don't slap me. And then like she'll call me and she just looks so drained. And
Yeah,
I'm like, what's
yeah.
wrong? She's like, look, and they're fighting now at 7:30 in the morning. What are they fighting over? I don't know. One didn't talk loud enough, so the other
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
mad because he didn't hear. And now they're wrestling, and now they're in 4 different costumes. First Spider-Man, now Nacho Libre, now they're cowboys, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's so cute.
You
but
want the
it's-
blue cup with the yellow
Yeah, it's
plate
chaos.
and the
It's
yeah.
constant chaos, like, and it's the greatest chaos to watch. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I get to leave.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
There you
This
go.
was cute. I love you guys. But it's great chaos.
So now you know when I asked that question about starting a family where I was coming from.
Oh yeah. Well, I have this like joke that I'm like, I'm gonna wait
Yeah.
till her daughter and my nephews are old enough that when I have children, I could just drop them off.
There you go.
Because I'll say, oh, you guys.
Built-in childcare.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm constantly like, hey, do you want to go to Javier's? Bring your daughter, bring the baby. My sister, bring the boys. It's okay, but let's go to Javier's and have a drink.
And they're like, you're tripping. I'm not bringing it
Yeah,
up.
she's like, no. I want to go to Javier's
exactly.
by myself.
Exactly. That's the first thing you think.
Yeah. It's the battle, but it's like, it's better to have all of them than none of them. So
Right.
it's like, hey, whatever we need to do, bring them all.
Bring them on.
Man, this has been an awesome
You guys
podcast.
are amazing.
Oh,
thank
you
you.
so
You
much
guys are
for coming
amazing.
onto the
Thank
show.
you so much for
That was
having
great.
us. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
guys.
man.
Tell the world
This is a
where
roller
they,
coaster.
where they can find you, social media, websites, phone numbers, all that stuff. Business phone numbers, of course.
You're good at this.
Okay, so website is dplawca.com. Phone number is 619-375-0077.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then do you need emails? What else? We don't have a business social media
yeah.
and all that.
No.
So
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
We're gonna get that
I
popping.
mean, like I said, if someone wants to be bored, they could add our personal. But otherwise, the phone number and the website's where to find us.
DP Law CA.
dplawca.com.
All right.
All right, and we'll have you guys on again.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You. We
Thank you
really
so
enjoyed
much.
this.
So
Was
fun.
Actually,
fun.
you guys should be having your own podcast.
We've
Yeah.
heard this a lot.
Imagine that, because you have two of you. It's just like us. The
Yeah.
dynamic between you two.
Yeah.
We've
would be
been
amazing.
told that, and we've talked about it.
Yeah.
But we're like, we just want to make sure we don't just talk about law all the time, you know?
I have a strong feeling
You won't just talk.
you won't
about
just
law.
talk about law.
Yeah.
2024.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
like it.
right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe you'll.
Well, we could fill in for you guys.
Yeah.
There you go.
You have to be with your kids, and you just want a day off. We'll be hosts for you guys.
I don't want any day off.
On that note, this has been another episode of the Get Louder podcast, and we out.
We out.